Hello everyone, this is the mining geologist and I'm back again with another very exciting and very informative tutorial. In this tutorial we are going to use the software QGIS and we are going to cover the basics of this software to get you guys started in this amazing open source free software. I'm making this course or this video because a lot of you have been asking me some simple questions that I thought they were obvious, or I thought that a lot of people knew how to do that in QGIS. People here on YouTube commenting about these things, and people reaching out in my Facebook page, or even people who took my courses, they ask me questions about, for example, how to generate contours from a raster DEM or things like that. That I thought that these things are just simple things to do in QGIS. So that's why I'm making this course that will cover just the basics of this software. And if you guys are interested in more things, or I forgot about things that I didn't mention, you can go and comment below and I'll make a part 2 for this video in which I will cover all the things that you guys have asked in the comments below. So make sure to watch the full video and comment below what other things that you want to see in the next video. So before I dive into this tutorial and this amazing software, I wanted to mention a few things here. Is that I have this website GeoTrainings.com in which I put in some trainings about geological modeling, pit design, depth design, query design, cartography, block modeling, resource estimation, you name it. Everything related to the mining industry and to these mining packages. So if you want to support me and if you want to support this community and you want me to continue doing this and you have something that interests you, go and take that course because that's going to help me a lot. So if you are interested in all of them and you don't want to buy them individually, you can go to courses, course bundles, and you can go and take this course, which is this bundle in which I have all the courses that I have currently. You can buy them at a flat fee, so this is basically the price of just like barely 3 courses probably, and currently I have like 14 or 13 courses and there will be more soon. So that's it. Or maybe if you're kind enough and you think you're not interested in these courses, you can go and support me on patreon.com. I will leave the link below, so you can support me with $1, $2, $5. It's up to you, and this is going to help me a lot. So let's stop talking about these kind of things and get into the software. So like any other software, you will have the main menu here in which you'll have like project. Here you will find things about creating a new project, saving the project, saving as, closing the software, opening a new project or existing project, open the recent projects, and so on. The edit menu, you will have like the undo, redo, copy and paste, and some like editing tools for the vector layers, and so on. The view is mainly if you have like a missing panel in here, you can go and go to panels and check the box for that panel you want. You can hide layers, you can zoom in, zoom out, do some statistical summary, you can measure, you can pan, and so on. So basically the view here, you can just use the mouse for that. I don't believe that you'll use this a lot, okay? The only thing that I use the view frequently is whenever there's a panel missing, I go and check the box for that panel. So let's say the styling in here, and you have this layer styling in here, okay? So then for these settings, this is basically for if you want to create a profile with some specific tools that you use, like the way we do that in SERPAC, for example, or if you got some keyboard shortcuts, or one other useful thing that this might be useful for some of the people watching this video, which is the language, because a lot of people want to use the QGIS, for example, in French or in Spanish or even in Japanese. So how do we do that? So you can go and translate everything in here in the language that you want by going to settings, options, and then inside general in here, make sure that this box is checked, and then you can pick whatever language that you want. You can see that we have almost all the languages in the world. Okay? So then you click on OK in here and make sure to close the software and reopen it so that the language is going to be updated. Now for the plugins, basically, like we all know, QGIS is an open source tool, so a lot of people out there are, creating plugins and extensions to this amazing software. So you can go and install plugins like plugins that do profiles, plugins for I don't know, for drillings, for example, like this one, or probably plugins for remote sensing. There's plenty of things that you can find inside the plugins in here. Basically, the vector menu is you have the this is basically to edit the vector files or to do some processing for the vector files. What are vector files, you're asking me? Then we have basically three types. We have the points, lines or polylines, and we have the polygons. So point is just a point, polyline is basically lines. So for example, if you want to digitize the center of a road, you will digitize that as a line. If you want to do like the capitals of different cities or different countries, you can represent that as points. If you want to digitize the lakes, for example, you will digitize that as polygons. Okay, so we'll see that in a moment. So raster, they're basically images. That's what it is, a raster. This is basically to do processing for raster or for images. For DEM, for example, to do operations on the pixels, like you want to filter some specific pixels, you want to multiply the value of that pixel by in Ember, you want to multiply a raster by another raster, you want to extract just a portion of that raster image, and so on. This is basically if you want to do an operation on the raster files. Databases, this is basically for databases, and it's something that we're not going to cover in this video because I consider that as an advanced topic. Web, so if you have a plugin that interacts with the web or creates like some web pages, you will find it basically here. We'll see in a moment a plugin that is very useful that we will find inside web. GeoScience, this is in your installation. If you have a fresh installation, you're not going to find this GeoScience because this is actually an additional plugin that I use to do drill hole visualization inside a QGIS. It's a really useful tool to create cross sections and so on, and I have a video that covers how to use this plugin. You can go and check my YouTube channel and you will find how I was able to visualize block models in QGIS, and I was able also to display drill holes in 3D processing. This is basically to display the processing toolbar to see the history or the result of the different operation that you've done. And we have the graphical modeler. This is basically to combine different scripts and to automate stuff. Okay, that was the main menu, really simple. And you can see also we have this toolbar in here in which we have things that are pretty explanatory. So if you want to create a layout, a print layout for a map, for example, you find these tools in here. And if you want to pan, if you want to zoom to selection, if you want to zoom in, zoom out, and if you want to select something, if you want to unselect or deselect the features, if you want to display the toolbox, if you want to hide it or display it here, If you want to measure something, you add text, or you can do whatever you want in here. And we cover some of these in a moment. So we have here the browser. Basically, you can see that we have the C drive, D drive, and E drive. These to navigate in your system and to import things to the layers in here. You have different, sort of folders in here. This is basically if you have WMS files or databases, Oracle databases, and so on. These are somehow advanced things, but you can see the XYZ tiles in here. I have something inside it. This is basically if you want to add a base map, so you can go and create a new connection here. You put in the name here and the link, and you click on OK, and it's going to be stored. For example, you will have a Google Earth base map that you can use whenever you want. So we'll see a different method to do this, and it's really easy. And if you're interested in the XYZ tiles, how do they work, I have a dedicated video for that in my YouTube channel, and you can go and find that out. Okay, this is the layers. This is the layers panel. We have all the different layers stacked on the top of each other in here, and they're going to be all of these layers in here. They're going to be displayed in the Canva or the 2D viewer in here. This is the toolbox, and we have the layer styling in here. Nothing shows up in here because we don't have any layers. And you can see that we have the coordinates, we have the scale, we have the magnifier, we have the rotation if you want to rotate the view in here. We have this render checkbox. So for example, if you zoom out, do you want the software to update the view, or you want it to keep the same view? And we have here the coordinate system for the view. So just one thing to note here is that we can have different layer with different coordinate systems, but let's say that you want to view all of these layers in one coordinate system. That's exactly what we see in here. So you choose the coordinate system that you want to use for the map, or to export that map, or to view in here. So you choose it from here. This is what it means exactly. Okay. So now let's get started with some basic, vector files. So if we go to layer, so if we want to create a layer, want to import a layer, we go to the layer menu. Okay. So currently we don't want to add a layer, we want to create a layer. We go to layer and then create layer, and you can see that we have a new shapefile layer and we have a temporary scratch layer. So what is the difference between a temporary scratch layer or a temporary shapefile layer and a shapefile layer? Okay, let's start with the scratch layer. For example, if I click on temporary scratch layer, okay, you can see the window here. So let's call this for example lines. Okay, you choose the name, which is lines. Then for the geometry, you can see that we have points, lines, and polygons. Okay, this is basically multi-points if you want to do multiple points, multi-lines, or multi-polygons. And it's the same thing. Let's go, for example, and create lines. Okay, so it is really important to choose the right coordinate system. So we are going to choose this one, the same as this one for the moment. And let's click on OK. You can see now that we have a line in here, okay, and it's in editing mode. So you can see that we have a line here, and there's this sort of a chip icon in here. This means that this one is actually a temporary layer. What does it mean? It means that if you close the software right now, you will lose all the data inside of this one, okay? So if we try, for example, to close this, you will notice that we have this one that says, do you want to save the current project? No, this one. There will be another window after that one that tells you that you have some temporary layers. Do you want to save that or not? And if you save it, it's going to be a permanent layer. You can click on this one, for example, also, and it's going to allow you to save that to a file in your system, and it's going to be a permanent layer, okay? That's for temporary scratch layer. Now let's go to create layer and use new shape file layer. Now you can see that we have a different window in here. So in here we need to save this in our system. We need to save the file, and forget about the encoding here. This is basically, let me give you a hint in here. So for example, if you're using Latin letters and numbers, it's not an issue. Or let's say, for example, if you're a French and you have things, letters in French that are not Latin, or they have not regular characters, you can change the one that is suitable for you, and you can go and Google what kind of encoding that you need to display that specific language, let's say Chinese for example, and the software is going to support that inside the attribute table. Okay, so this is the coordinate system again, and we need to choose, so for example, let's make it line also, and you can choose, this is probably line number 2, and it's going to be saved wherever this project is, or you can go and navigate your system and save it. Now this is the attribute table. So what makes the GIS softwares different than CAD softwares? It's the main thing is basically, and the most important thing is the ability to create attribute tables. What are attribute tables? These are basically some sort of a metadata. So for example, if you have lines that represents the rivers, you will have other attributes inside that, as if you have like an Excel sheet for each one of these features that would say, like for example, the length, the surfaces, and so on. So let's say for example that you want to add a table here. Okay, so we have the ID, which is by default. Okay, you can go and remove this one if you want. Let's add one that call this name. So basically the name is going to be text data. So you can choose either text data, number, whole number, integers, or decimal numbers, or a date. So let's make it a text. So what is the length or the maximum length that text could be? Let's leave it 18 by default. Okay, and we can go and add this to the field list. You can now see that we have ID and name. Okay, and we click on OK. So this is line 1, and you can see that we don't have that one there because this one is saved in our system, and if you close this, we can still import this file later on, but this, we're gonna lose this one. Okay, so let me go and delete this temporary scratch layer, and let's click on this one and choose to click on this toggle editing icon in there that shows a pen, or we can go and right click and choose toggle editing, which means every modification that we're going to create right now, or every single thing that we're going to digitize, is going to be stored in this file here, in this shape file. Okay, so let's bring this base map, which is the Google Earth, and let's zoom into a location. Let's zoom into a location here. And this is something that I really like. It's the Krasberg mine here. And let's go and let's say that we want to digitize some of these roads. Okay, let's yeah, another thing here is everything that is displayed on the bottom is going to be on the bottom as the, so for example, you can see that the Google Earth base map layer here is actually a very big layer, so it's going to cover everything underneath it. So make sure to make everything on the top of the Google Earth so it's going to be visible. So let's digitize something. Now we can go and let's say we want to digitize the center of this, let's say road in here, and we right click when we want to finish, and you can see that we have the ID. Let's give it an ID of 1, and this, we can call this, for example, road number 1, and click on OK. Okay, then we can go and let's say that we have a different one. So for example, this one, we can go and digitize this one here. and we right click and choose 2, for example, for the ID, and we can call this road number 2, and we click on OK. Okay, so then if we want to see all of these informations, we can go right click and choose Open Attribute Table, and you can see that we have the road number 1 and the road number 2. Now, if you want to see this exactly which one is that, you can go and select this one, and it's going to be highlighted in yellow. Okay, so what if, for example, you want to do a little bit of modification here? So what are we how can we do that? You select the one that you're interested in, and you can go to the vertex tool in here and choose vertex tool all layer, and then you double click on this one and move it, double click and move it, and so on. That's how to modify that. Same thing for the points or the polygons. So you do the exact thing. So if you see something in yellow here, it means that it is actually selected. You can go and click on this one to and select all the layers. Let's go and create a temporary scratch layer, but this time we want to make a polygon. I'm gonna call this polygon, and we click on OK. Let's go and let's say that we want to digitize the crest of this one, just to show you how the polygons actually works. It's the same exact thing as the lines. You just go and digitize, and when you are actually done, you just right click and you will have that polygon in there. If you're finished with digitizing, you click on this one and save it, and it's gonna be stored. Just make sure that this one is not actually a temporary scratch layer, so you need to save this one to your system so that you don't lose this later on. Okay, that's basically the difference between temporary scratch layers and layers. Okay, so let's take a look, and by the way, you can do points the same exact way. Now let's take a look at some raster files. Another way I like to use when I want to import something is to just drag and drop. So let me drag this raster file to QGIS. Okay, not this one. Let me drag this to drop it inside QGIS, and you can see that it is actually inside the software right now. This is basically, that's the icon of a raster file. Let me go right click and choose zoom to layer. And you can see that this is basically a DEM, and it is actually located in that place. Okay, this is a DDM. So what kind of things that we have inside a DEM? So before we go to that one, let's go back to the lines in here. Right click and choose zoom to layer, and let me just make these a little bit thicker, and let me choose to be red probably color, so it's gonna be more visible. Okay, let's say that you want to see some informations about this line here. So let's say that your client sent you like a big database, and with thousands of layers, I mean like with features inside a layer, and you want to see this the information related to this one. Let's say what is the name of this road, for example. You click on this one here, which is the identify feature, and you go and select the layer that contains the informations that you want, because if you select, for example, the polygon and you click on this one, nothing will happen. You need to select the lines and then click on this one. And you can see that it tells us that this have an ID of 2, and this is basically the road number 2. Okay, I wanted to show you this. So if you want to see the informations, also you can go to this one. Let me see. Okay, so you can see that it's a road number 1, the ID number 1, and road number 1. So what about the rasters now? What kind of information do we have about the raster? If you click in here, for example, you can see that we have the band number 1, and we have 78. So this is the value of the pixel at that specific coordinate. So we've clicked on this one, and this one. You can see the pixel. If we zoom in, you can see that we have a bunch of squares, and these are basically the pixels, and they have values, and the value in that specific pixel, this one for example, 790, and we have 980 in here. And since this is a DEM, the value in these pixels represents the elevation at that specific point. That's how we use DEM. So basically this is a topography. Okay? So so how can we just extract contours from this DEM, okay? So if you guys remember that we said that in order to do some operations on rasters, we need to go to the raster menu. And if you have some vectors, we need to go to the vector menu. So what do you think where we should go now, right now? Yes, it is the raster menu. So we go to conversion. So we go to raster and you go to extraction because we are going to extract something from that layer. We don't want to extract the clip it. We want to extract the contours. Okay. Then if that one is selected, you'll get it by default in the input layer. If it's not selected or it's not the right layer that you want to use, then you go and choose whatever raster layer that you want to use. You can see in the input layer we have only two available in here because the only two raster layers that we have are the Google Earth base map and the DEM. Okay, we have just one band, so it's gonna be the only band showing in here. Okay, so if you have like a colorful image, you will have three bands: the RGB bands, the R for red, the B for blue, and the G for green. That's the RGB. Okay, so and you will have more bands in if you're doing remote sensing, but that's a little bit of an advanced topic. We might cover that in a different video if you guys are interested. So here the interval between the lines. So you can choose like 1 meter intervals, you can choose 10 meter, you can choose 50 meters or whatever you want. So for this tutorial we are going to choose 50, and this is basically the attribute in which these elevations are going to be stored. Okay, so let's go and click on run. So if you want to save this to a file, you can go and click here and choose save to a file, or it's going to create a temporary layer that, of course, if you want that to be on your system, make sure to make it permanent by clicking on this icon. Let's click on run. And this might take some time depending on the value that you've chosen and how big it is, this raster. You can see now that we have all the contours, and these are the contours that have been created, and they are on different elevation. If we open the attribute table here, you can see that we have the elevations in here. Of course, we can also go to the identification tool here, click on this one, and you can see that this contour for the elevation 650. So that's how to create contours from a DDM, which is something actually very useful that as a geologist or as a mining engineer, you might use that a lot. Okay, so you can go also right click on this one and export this, save feature as, and you can export it as a CSV, for example, as a DXF. You want to import this to a mining package, for example, and use it for your pit design or whatever. And you can save it as a shapefile or plenty of other extensions. Also, don't forget to choose the right coordinate system in here for that to be in the right place. Okay, this is the contour. So let's say now that we have some text delimited data in an Excel sheet that you want to import that. How do we do that? So we go to layer, since we are going to create a new layer. And are we going to create a layer or to add a layer? We are going to add a layer from a text file. So what option do you think is the best option to do this? It is, of course, this one, add delimited text layer. Okay, so then we can go and navigate to that layer that we have. Let's go to data, for example, and let's import these drill hole, which is basically a color file in here. Okay, So in that file, what is actually the separator? Do you have a custom delimiter? What is the delimiter? If it's a comma separator, separated values, you can use this one. And if you have a custom like delimiters, for example, tab or a colon or a space or other, you can specify that here. In our case, it's separated by semicolons. So we choose custom delimiters, semicolons. So for example, if I go and choose tab, you can see that it is not looking good, and you can see that the colon separator is actually semicolon there. So let's choose semicolon. Okay, so the first record has the field names. Yes, we have borehole ID, color, uh, X and Y and Z. So if we uncheck this box, we're going to have this line that doesn't have any information that we can use. So it's basically the has the records of the different fields. Okay, so detect field types. Yes, so for example, if you have the X or E string, for example, the software is gonna try to guess the column. So this is gonna be the X column, and this is gonna be the Y column, this is gonna be the Z column, and you can choose whatever coordinate system that you want. So this is basically some dummy drill holes just to show you how to import this, so they're not gonna be anywhere. So let's go and add this, and we can go and zoom into these, and you can see that they're just a bunch of points, and they are somewhere in the world. That's not the right or the exact location, but that's how to import the text delimited layer. So let's go, and if you have in that Excel sheet, you have, like in our case, we have the elevation and probably some other informations. You can go and open the attribute table, and you can see them in here. As always, you can go and select specific features in here or values, and they're going to be selected. You can see that these are the ones that we have selected. Okay, and of course, again, you can go and select this, or if you go and click on this one, you can see all the informations related to that thing. And this is basically the power of GIS tools, which is making the access to the information really easy. Okay, now let's say that we want to see in each one of these points want to see some sort of a radius. Okay, we're gonna get to some processing, to some ways to do processing that might be useful for you guys. So or let's, before we just actually do that, let me just show you one more thing, which is the field calculator, or the something related to the attribute table. Let's get to some more things into that. So let's go to layer, and I want to create a temporary scratch layer. It's going to be a point layer. I'm going to call this points and click on OK. So let me go and add a bunch of points in here. So basically these are the points that I want to add. And let me go to here and save this. I want to open the attribute table for this one, and you can see that we have an empty attribute table. Okay, so let's say that I want to create a new column. So you toggle the editing mode, and you go to this one that says new field. So I want to create a new field, and I'm gonna call this name, and I'm gonna not gonna add any commands in there, and let's choose text, and let's make the length 18 again, and click on OK. So I'm gonna call this S1, S2, S3, S4, S5, S6, S7, 8, 9, 10, so S11 and S12. Okay, these are some locations, and let's say now that you can see in the attribute table I don't have access to the X and Y coordinates. How do we calculate them? And since the software actually, so for example, let me hide these, you can see that if I hover in here, so we have the coordinates, how do we make the software actually calculates the x and y for these coordinates uh, automatically, so that we don't have to go to this one, take note of this coordinate, and go and copy and paste that. We're not going to do that. So let's go and open the attribute table. So we go what we call here, by the way, you can go and delete a field by this one. You can select this one and delete it if you want. And we go to field calculator. So this is basically where you can apply some uh, custom operations or expressions to calculate things automatically, or to combine bunch of informations to extract new information. Okay, so let's go and use this one. So it's really obvious here. So if you want to update an existing field, so for example, if you want to update these, you can go and click on this one, okay? And you can update this field, the name, for example, okay? So if you want to create a new field, you can go and create a new field here. In our case, we are going to call this X, and we want that to be not an integer, we want to be a real number with 3 decimals, okay? And how do we actually calculate that? You can see that we have a bunch of tools that we can use in here, but basically we're calculating x coordinates or y coordinates. They are geometry, so we find them inside geometry. So we go down here, you can see that we have this $x. If we click on this one, let's say, to see what it is exactly, it says return the x coordinate of the current feature, okay? And that's exactly what we want. So we double click on this one, and you can see that it will give us an output preview here with the x coordinate, okay? If you don't see, let's say, let's add v, for example, you can see that we have expression is not valid, okay? So you know that the expression is valid when you have an output preview, an example in here, okay? So this is an example X, and it looks okay for us. And let's click on OK. And you can see that the software automatically calculates the X coordinate for all of them automatically. And you can see that we have 3 decimals in here, and that's exactly what we wanted. So we go to the next one, and we call this Y. And let's go and choose decimal number in here. And this time we know exactly how things works. We don't have to go and navigate to this one. So all we need is the $mark and Y, okay, to calculate the Y coordinate. Okay, so click on OK. And you can see, guys, how easy it is to do things inside GIS tools. And now we have the X and Y coordinates for these points. If you're really interested in, for example, let's say how to extract, so we've noticed that in this raster file, for example, we have the elevations. So imagine that we have different points in here with X and Y, we can calculate them automatically. And we want to extract the elevation from this raster file. We can also do that, but I believe this video is like for beginners, but I already covered that in a video in my YouTube channel. You can go and check that out, and you will see how to extract the elevation from a DEM and store that inside a vector file. Okay, so these that was the basic of the field calculator, and now we'll take a look at some styling, vector styling. So for example, let's say that you want to display these in different way. So you can see here, if you go to view and go to panels and choose layer styling, so you will find this layer styling panel in here. So this is the way I like to view it in here and not do the right click properties and choose symbology, is that in order to see the changes, I need to click on OK, and if I don't like it, I need to go to property again and so on. But here I can view that interactively. So if I increase the size, for example, here, you can see that interactively, and you see whether you like it or not. So let's change this, for example, to this symbol, and we can probably get back to the green dot, and we can probably click on this one and change the outline to black, and we can go to here and change the one to blue or whatever you want. And also for the lines, for example, here, if I zoom into this layer, you can see that I can go and make it a dashed line. We can go and make it like this or like this, and we can go and make it this one or probably this one, and we can change the color, make it a blue, and it's really great to see that interactively. And let's say that we want to see the names. So this is basically for the symbology for the different things about colors and thickness and stuff like that. You go to labels in here, and now it's currently set to no label, and you choose to single labels. Okay, and you choose the column, which is want to label that by the ID or by the name. Let's choose the name, for example, and you can see that it starts to display the name, but we don't like the way it looks, so we can choose the font from here. Let's say Arial Black, this one, and want to make the size a little bit bigger, maybe let's say 20, and I want to create a buffer around it so it is more visible, and we want to just make it curved, let's say, or maybe parallel, and we can increase the distance so that it is staying a little bit away from that and not covering. And you can see that now it starts to look great. Okay, so that's the basics of, or let's show you how to do that for the drill holes. For example, we can go and label this by probably the borehole ID. That's the name of the drill hole, and let's make this now 5. That looks let's make it bolded, and we can go and add the buffer so they are more visible, and we can go to this one and change the color to something more clear, like red dot. Okay, and it starts to look the way we want it to be. We can go back to here and probably make the text, let's say 10, 10, and we can go to the distance. You can choose cartographic or round point or offset from point. You can choose where you want that to be, and you can always play around with this one to choose the right place for the text, and it looks great. So that's basically what layer styling is, and how you need it. Okay, let's say that you like the style of this one and you want to apply this to different points. So all you have to do is to go to this one, right click, and choose properties. And then inside style in here, you go and save style. And you save this style as a QML style file. And let's say that you've saved that file. Then all you have to do is to go to your next point or layer, go to property, and go to style and choose load style and choose that specific file, and it's going to have the exact same styling, so you don't have to really struggle. What about rasters now? Let's go to rasters and let's hide these contours. So for raster, you can see that for the moment inside the layer styling that we have black to white. So we need to change, like single band gray. We need to change this to single band pseudo color, okay? And now we need to add some classes. So let's choose continuous and choose classify. Before doing that, we need to go and choose the color ramp. Let's make spectral, and you can see that we have these values now. So you can see for 0 we have the color red, from 0 to this color we have the orange, and so on. If you want to add more classes, you go and choose equal interval, and increase the number of classes to, let's say, 100, and it's going to display that for you. You can always go and change these to whatever color that you want. Okay, so what if you want them to be displayed as exact? You can choose that, and this is going to display, let's go continuous and classify, and this is going to display the exact numbers. So where zero is, the zero is here, and we can go discrete, for example. This is going to display discrete, so basically this is 0 or below, and so on. And some people like these kind of things, so let me go to this one and try to decrease the number to, like, for example, 10 or maybe 8. And you can see that we have the same style that you would find in softwares like Surfer, for example. Okay, so this is basically what you can do with rasters. Okay, so let's go back to the toolbox in here and see some things that we can actually do. So let's go and show you how to install a plugin. So let's go and install the plugin, the profile tool, for example. If we go to here and choose and look for profile, you can see that there's a plugin called profile tool. You click on that one and choose install. So in your case, it's going to have install in here. After you install that, you will have this icon in here that shows this terrain profile. If you click on this one, you will be able now to create some sort of a profiles whatever you want. So the requirements is that you need to have a DEM or a raster file in order to view the elevation. So let's say that we want to create a cross section here, and we want to add this one as the data. Okay, you can see that this is a profile in this specific place. Let's zoom in and create something. You can see the profile in there, and you can see the profile in there. So for people who are used to geological modeling, most of the geological modeling softwares will allow you to export the interfaces of the different lithological layers as a raster DEM, like an ASCII raster. You can export these and import them inside QGIS, and you can create cross sections this way. So you can change the color for this one, let's say to blue, and you can import the next raster, and you will have it below here, and it's going to be in red. It's going to have a different thing in here, and you can go and export this as a PNG or as a GPAT or as a DXF if you want. So that's one tool. And what else can we cover here? We can go to the processing toolbox, because we have a lot of things in there that it's not really this video is not going to be enough to cover everything in here, but let's say that we want to clip this raster. So we search for clip, and you can see that we have, this is for vector. Let's say I want to extract raster by mask layer. Okay, so for this one you need to have, so this is basically the raster. Let's go and create a quick polygon. Go to create new temporary scratch layer, and I call this mask, and we click on OK. And then let's go and digitize the quick mask. Let's say we're interested in this area. Okay, and then we click on clip raster by a mask layer. So this is basically the input layer. This is the mask layer, and let's go and run this. And you can see now, if we hide this one, you can see that we have that clipped raster, and we can then probably generate a topography out of this using raster extraction contours, and we can get the contours out of this just out of that sample. Okay, you can do exactly the same thing for, let's say, the contours. These are actually vector layer. Let's go and clip a vector by a mask layer. So we have here the contours, and we have the mask. We click on run, And now if we hide the mask layer, and if we hide the contours, you can see that we have these contours that are actually called clipped, and we can probably change the color to black so they are more visible. And let's hide these, and you can see that we've clipped the contours. You can also clip polygons, points, and whatever you want. So, and this is how geoprocessing in QGIS works, and you can find plenty of plugins in here. So for example, in our case here, we thought about clipping, and we've written that keyword clip, and you will find things that are basically self-explanatory. So clip raster by a mask layer, so you will need a mask layer and you will need the raster itself. So that's how you find things. So let me think of something. Okay, let's say that we want to get transform these these pixels to a point layer. So let's just write in point, or let me go to point, and you can see that we have plenty of things that we can do in here. So let me go to pixel, okay, raster pixel, see, raster pixels 2 points. So we have that. Okay, so we can choose the clipped, and the name is going to be value, and we can run this, and it might take some time depending on your you can see now we have a lot of points in here, and each one of these points actually have the raster value. So if we go to the attribute table, we will have a lot of points, probably a million of them or even more, and all of them have the value on the raster. So basically this might crash the computer if you have a lot of points, and it might do for my computer right now, and I lose this tutorial. Let's hope it is not. So let me pause the video and see how it goes. Okay, we're okay. You can see that we have like 1,762,000 points, and they have the values of the different rasters. What you can do here is you can go and calculate the X and Y, and you have the elevation, and export these points to your CAD software, for example. Okay, that's one way to do this. So let me go and just remove these because they might crush the computer. Okay, so let's say that, for example, you have, I'm not going to do that again, so let me just create, or maybe this one. Let's say that we have these, you want to have the points instead of lines, so you can go point to, or lines, basically, lines to, or you can see points along geometry, or this is basically what we need, I believe, and that's not the right thing. So if we go to vector here, and you can see that we have extract vertices. So basically that's what we call vertices. You need to know that specific keyword in order to search for that in here. So vertices are basically the points that makes a line, so we need to go and extract them. So we need to choose that contour or that clipped because it is smaller than the contours. Let's click on run, and you can see now we have all these points. And if I don't want to do that mistake again, so if you go and look at these points, you'll have in each one of these points, you will also have the elevation stored. And again, you can go and calculate the X and Y for these and export them to whatever software that you want. So as you can see, guys, that we have plenty and a lot of tools inside the toolbox in here that we cannot cover all of them, and I myself, I don't know all of them, but these tools, all you have to do is to think about the problem that you're facing right now, and you go and search for these keywords, and you will find the right tool that you can use. So So I believe this is actually the basics of QGIS, or how to use it to solve your problems. Just one thing that I didn't show you how to do it, which is basically layouts. So let's say that you're happy with this map, and let's display the base map here. Let's say that you're happy with this map and you want to export this as a map with a legend and with everything that you have. So you can go to this one here, new print layout, or you press Control P. So you press this one. Let's call this map and click on OK. And you can see now that we have a new window in which we are going to create the layout, okay? So the first thing that you need to do is to add that map, okay? You click on this one, which says add map to new layout, uh, okay? And then you can go and create that layout. And you can see that the map is now displayed in there. But let's say that you don't want it to be like this. You want it to zoom a little bit and probably shift it to the side in here. You go to this tool in here, and you zoom in. But it zooms a lot, so how do we zoom in slowly? You press Control and you zoom out, or you zoom in, okay? Then you are going to shift this to the middle, or let's say to the center, because you want to display some legends in here. So, and then you click on this one to add the legend, and you digitize the square in here, and you can see that we have all the legends. But let's say now, after doing all the processing and everything, you're not interested about all of these lines and points. You want just these colors, okay? So you go to you select the legend in here, and you go to item properties. Inside legend items, you select whatever one that you want to delete. Make sure that you uncheck the auto update there, and select this one and press the minus. If you want to get that back again, you press the plus and choose whatever layer that you want to add. And then you want to hide these, let's say this one, or let's just select all of these and hide them, and you get only these. But you don't want to display this as N16 I don't know what. So if you want to change the name, all you have to do is to double click, and let's call this, for example, topography, and click on OK, and it's going to be displayed the way you want it. So you can also go to the fonts in here, and for the titles, for the group fonts, sub fonts, and so on, you can change the fonts the way you want it. Okay, you can also add a frame. So you can add a frame to the map. So now we're looking at the legend. So we're adding a frame to the legend. So we can go and add a frame to the map if we want. So let's add a frame, and okay. So the frame is not really displaying here, so we can make the thickness a little bit more, and you can see that the frame is starting to display there in black, but that's not what we want. So, or let's keep it 2, and we can go and add a grid, for example, for the coordinates. We can modify the grid in here, and for the frame you can create a different frame here, which is going to be, for example, interior text or zebra or whatever you want. So now currently that outside frame is actually covering this frame, so this is not going to be visible. And you can go and change this one. So let's say 1, and it's not working, so 0, and choose 1 here. And you play around with this one to get the coordinates, like say every 100 or every 1,000 or whatever you want to be displayed, and they're gonna be coordinates around here. So and whether you want them to be displayed inside or outside the frame, you can go and play around with these for the left, right, top, and so on. And let's say that you want to add the north arrow. You can go either to or maybe the scale bar. You can set the scale bar in here, and also you can change the color from black to white, for example. If you go to scale bar in here, and we can go to the fonts and colors, and we can change this to no, that's not for that one. We want it for the text, so that's the line. Okay, display. So the font is basically for, you click on the font and you go to the text here, and we want the text to be probably white, and we want that to be bold, and that's it. So you play around with these. Maybe you can change that color, that black color, to white, or probably you can set this to be here, and so for more visibility. You can also add a text. You can change the font, of course, in here. Let's say to 36 there, and this, let's call this text or test. You can also change the color if you want to white. So this is gonna be the title of your map, and you can go and add an image if you want. Let's say that you have an north arrow or something, or you can use this one, which will display the north arrow to that direction. And I don't really like this, but in recent version of QGIS, you have better north arrows that you can use. And let's say that you want to add an image, which is this one. You go and choose the image here, and you navigate and import whatever image that you want. If you're happy with the map, if you want to export that to a PDF maybe, or to a JPEG, all you have to do is to go to layout and export as image, and click close here and choose where you want to save that. And if you want that to be georeferenced, so if someone else is going to import that to a GIS software or to a mining package, it's going to be in the right place. You choose generate world file. Okay, there will be two files, the image file and the world file, in which you have all the informations about the coordinate system. Okay, so that's it for layout. And this is basically the an introduction to QGIS that will get you started in this software. I hope you guys liked it, and if there is something missing, or you want me to add, probably an advanced video, or you want me to cover something specific, please let me know in the comments below, and I will make sure to make another video that covers exactly what you guys need. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video if it was informative, and see you in another tutorial.